Hi folks, Romanian here, with the next installation of my Basics of France series. Basics of France, the Battle of the Midgame. Once you're through the first few years as France, you know if you're doing well or not. You know if you're looking at becoming a janissary or a candidate for board leader. At least one of your neighbors has been defeated at this point, and you have to decide where you're going next and what you'll do when you get there. If you're part of a France-Germany alliance that successfully eliminated England, you should consider how strong the Eastern powers are before deciding what to do next. You might see this moment as an opportunity to turn on Germany, before Germany can beat Russia or Austria down and become more secure. And it absolutely is such an opportunity. However, if the Eastern powers have settled their fights and started growing, now may be the wrong moment to cut Germany's knees out from under him. At the same time, beating Germany early on is almost always an easier play for France than waiting to attack him until later. When later arrives, your units will usually be further away from Germany than they are now, especially your fleets, and Germany is likely to see it coming. I've seen the France-Germany alliance end with a French victory more times than the reverse, but that's usually premised on France attacking Germany within a couple of years of England's demise. These are just some thoughts to keep in mind. If Germany seems like it needs to stay alive to render some value for you, then you should keep him alive, and go attack Italy in the south right away, or alternatively lend your assistance in attacking Russia in the north, if Germany will accept it. If you help against Russia in the north, it almost goes without saying, though, that Germany will be your natural next target, because your units will be right next to him. So it does take a very trusting Germany to even let you help against Russia. If you're part of an Anglo-French alliance that successfully eliminated Germany, the situation is a bit different. The pressure to stab your ally isn't so much from the fact that your solo becomes less likely if your ally continues to grow, in this case, as it's because England will gradually become a very difficult to attack power, occupying a fortified position in his corner. Over time, it will get easier for England to stab you, and harder for you to stab England. England's units can never get as far away from you as yours will inevitably get from them if you turn your eyes east. The only exception is if you decide to trust England a lot, and let them lend you some of their fleets for the attack in the east. The reason why that requires trust is that it would require you to occasionally let English fleets pass through the mid-Atlantic Ocean, which is adjacent to 3 traditionally French-controlled centers. However, if you don't have an ally who can help you stab England after Germany is gone, letting some fleets pass through the mid-Atlantic might be the lesser of the possible evils. If you can get the English fleets into the Mediterranean, you will have passed through a bit of a crisis, and England can become a part of your strength and ultimately help pave your way to the solo. If you can't or don't want to try this, I recommend delaying a move east if possible, and stabbing England as soon as you can with Russian help. Otherwise, England will become a sword hanging over your head, ready to execute you at an unpredictable future time. If you were part of a Western Triple that continued until powers like Russia and Italy were destroyed, you should have a serious conversation with Germany now about stabbing England. If Germany isn't interested, you should probably try to stab Germany before England can get around to it, if you can safely do so. If not, I would recommend making your way to Constantinople as quickly as possible, while encouraging Germany to remain vigilant against an English stab, so you can hopefully gain as many of the benefits of the Western Triple for yourself personally as possible. Whether you have already defeated England and/or Germany and/or Italy, the mid-game is the time when France typically has the best opportunity to cross the stalemate line. Taking any Italian center puts you across the stalemate line in a significant way, as does taking Russian centers like Warsaw or any Austrian center. Once you have one of those centers, you have to either march forward and establish footholds further beyond the stalemate line, or you need to have a good plan to continue holding that single center until you can collect the rest of the centers behind the stalemate line. Either one of those will be difficult to execute, which is where the difficulty in reaching a solo victory in diplomacy comes from. However, it's my experience that moving forward in diplomacy is almost always easier than staying still, especially if you're already over the stalemate line. Offense carries a momentum with it that defense does not. That means that defenders are always fighting a losing battle in diplomacy. In order to succeed, they have to be better at resource management and information warfare than their opponents. And I don't like to rely on my skills being better than my opponents. It's better to have some sort of positional advantage whenever possible than to just rely on outsmarting your enemies. So that's my advice on winning the Battle of the Midgame as France. I hope you enjoyed this video in the Basics of France series. If so, please stay tuned for the finale, Basics of France Endgame, coming soon to a theater near you. And consider showing your appreciation with likes, comments, and a subscribe if you haven't already. If you want to support the channel beyond that, you can join the people whose names now appear on screen, this channel's patrons and translators. Until next time, Florida Man out.